Welcome to the Ethics in State Government course presented by the Mississippi State Personnel Board. This course can be paused at any time, and you can repeat sections as needed. The purpose of this course is to familiarize you with certain prohibitions and mandates within the ethics law and to educate you about your obligations as a state employee. Examples presented within this course are derived from previous advisory opinions issued by the Mississippi Ethics Commission. If you find yourself with an ethical or conflict of interest question, you must personally ask for an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission and follow its advice to shield you from any liability. The examples presented are not meant as advice and are for educational purposes only. Ethics is defined as the rules of behavior based on ideas about what is morally good and bad behavior. In order to more clearly define what this means for state employees, the Mississippi Legislature has stated that public officials and employees must be independent and impartial. Governmental decisions and policy must be made through the proper channels. Public office cannot be used for private gain. There must be trust in the integrity of government, and public officials are advised against conflicts of interest. As an employee of the state of Mississippi, you have an ethical duty to the public not to misuse your position for personal gain. Because of this, it is important that you perform your job duties honestly and in a manner that does not raise suspicion that you are misusing your position. Your actions reflect not only upon you individually, but on state government as a whole. The legislature established the Mississippi Ethics Commission to administer and enforce the ethics in government law. The Mississippi Ethics Commission is composed of 8 members appointed by the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court. The Mississippi Ethics Commission employs an executive director and personnel to maintain its day-to-day operations. The Ethics Commission enforces the ethics laws by issuing advisory opinions, keeping statements of economic interest, and investigating alleged violations of these ethics laws. Also, the Ethics Commission has limited jurisdiction over the Public Records Act and Open Meetings Act, which are topics included in ethics classes taught by the MSPB Office of Workforce Development. As a state employee, there are 8 basic prohibitions that you should be aware of. Legislative and board member contracts, use of position, contracting, purchasing goods and services, purchasing securities, insider lobbying, post-government employment, and insider information. The ethics laws apply to any officer, director, commissioner, supervisor, chief, agent, or state employee. In other words, if you receive a salary, per diem, or expenses paid out of state funds, you are included. The first prohibition we will discuss is about contracts with members of boards and the legislature. It may not be applicable to you individually as a state employee. For educational purposes, however, you should know that Section 109 of the Mississippi Constitution states that no member of a board or the legislature can have an interest in any contract with the state or any district, county, city, or town. During the time that these individuals are a member of a board or the legislature, and for 1 year after their term has ended, Section 109 of the Constitution applies to them. The second prohibition concerns the use of your position for undue gain. State employees may not use their position to gain or attempt to gain a pecuniary benefit other than a salary or authorized expenses. A pecuniary benefit is a benefit in the form of money, property, commercial interests, or anything else where there is economic gain. State employees cannot gain or attempt to gain undue pecuniary benefits for any relative or associated businesses. A relative can include your spouse, child, parent, sibling, or the spouse of one of these relatives. In other words, your salary is compensation for your job, and you should not use your position to attain any additional pecuniary benefit for yourself or relative in addition to that compensation. This prohibition extends to any businesses with which you or a relative are associated. You are associated with the business if you are an officer, director, owner, partner, or employee holder of more than 10% of the fair market value of a business. You can be associated with the business if you or a relative receive more than $2,500 in annual income from it, or if you or a relative exercise control over it. If your business or a relative's business falls within this definition, then you may not attempt to obtain any pecuniary benefit for that business using your state position. The third prohibition is about contracting with the state. As a state employee, you cannot be a contractor, subcontractor, or vendor with the same department or agency where you are employed. This also extends to any business in which you may have a material financial interest. Having a material financial interest in a business is a term of art used in the ethics laws to prevent someone from profiting when they have an influence over the public funds being used. As a result, a material financial interest can be any value received by you as a state employee or by your spouse. However, there are 4 exceptions to this definition. As an employee, you are allowed to have, number 1, ownership of less than 10% in a business with a total yearly net income of less than $1,000. Number 2, ownership of less than 2% in a business with a total yearly net income of less than $5,000. Number 3, income as an employee of a relative if neither you nor your relative is an officer, director, or partner, and any ownership interest would not be considered material under number 1 or 2. Or number 4, income of your spouse when he or she is a contractor, subcontractor, or vendor, and you exercise no control, direct or indirect, over the contract. The 4th prohibition states that employees cannot be a purchaser at any state government sale except when purchasing public utilities or when items are sold on a uniform price schedule. The subsection prohibits a state employee or official from purchasing anything at an auction or other sale conducted on behalf of the state. The 5th prohibition concerns the purchase of securities. Regarding the purchase of securities, you are not permitted to purchase any claim, certificate, warrant, or other security issued by or to be paid out of the treasury of your employer. The 6th prohibition is insider lobbying. As a state employee, you are not permitted to receive compensation for attempting to influence someone at your agency to make a certain decision in favor of or against a purchase. The 7th prohibition concerns what is not allowed after you leave state government employment. The statute states that as a state employee, you cannot earn compensation for any person or business in relation to any matter where you were directly concerned or where you personally participated in a case while working for the state. This section is specific regarding the type of work prohibited. It states that if you worked on a matter while you were in government, you cannot work on that exact same matter for a private business. However, this does not prohibit you from working for a government contractor on other matters. This only concerns those same cases, contracts, or assignments you worked on while in state government. While these guidelines aid state employees when confronted with ethical decisions, you should also be aware of a few exceptions that only apply to post-government employment. These exceptions state that the law does not apply when you have less than a material financial interest in a business or where you have a material financial interest in a business where there are 2 or fewer business commercial sources. You should review all of the exceptions found within the ethics laws when confronted with any ethical decisions after you leave state employment and contact the Ethics Commission with questions. The last prohibition we are going to discuss is insider information. Regarding insider information, the ethics laws provide that no one can intentionally use or disclose information gained as a state employee to gain some pecuniary benefit for himself, any relative, or any other person if it is not public information. This section arises most often in the context of economic development. If private information is learned through your position, it may not be revealed if it might result in a monetary benefit to anyone. This section may also apply to a former public servant if the information was learned while working for the state. The Mississippi Ethics Commission issues advisory opinions each month to state employees who write to ask questions about compliance with the ethics laws. It is important to keep in mind that if you request an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission, your name and agency name are kept confidential unless you give the Commission written permission to share your name publicly. The Mississippi Ethics Commission issues advisory opinions in regard to the standards of conduct or conflicts of interest for public officials, which includes all state employees. The Ethics Commission issues its advisory opinion within 90 days after receiving the request. For an employee to request an advisory opinion, he or she must send the Ethics Commission a written request. The request should include all of the facts which explain the conflict or issue that must be resolved. Once the Ethics Commission or its executive director issues an advisory opinion, there can be no civil or criminal liability against the employee for following the directions of the opinion unless a court declares the opinion manifestly wrong and without substantial support. However, if a suit has been filed or if prosecution has begun, the Ethics Commission may not issue an opinion to an individual involved in the lawsuit. In other words, you should request an advisory opinion before taking a questionable action or when you realize that a conflict of interest exists. The Ethics Commission oversees filings that are required to be made every year by various public servants, including most elected public officials, executive directors or agency heads of state agencies, and members of any state board, commission, or agency. There are certain procedures that must be followed for statements of economic interest. Statements of economic interest must be filed by May 1 of each year that an individual holds office. Candidates for public office must file the statement within 15 days of qualifying to be a candidate. The statements of economic interest are public records and are available for review on the Ethics Commission's website. These must be kept on file for 7 years. The legislature granted the Mississippi Ethics Commission the authority to investigate failures to file statements of economic interest and to impose a penalty when a violation is found. The Commission may also investigate public officials or other state employees when it receives a complaint that there is an alleged violation of law. Violations of the prohibitions in the ethics laws can result in the filing of a complaint with the Ethics Commission. The Commission is authorized to hold hearings and hear evidence to then determine if any of these laws have been violated. If any employee wishes to file a complaint alleging a violation of state law, he or she must file a sworn complaint before an investigation will be conducted. If an investigation is authorized by the Commission, it is conducted confidentially before the accused employee is notified. Once the investigation is complete, the Ethics Commission can send the complaint to the employee that was investigated and his or her agency. The accused employee has 30 days to send a response to the complaint. Depending on the response, the Commission has several options. It may decide to end the investigation, to schedule a hearing to listen to witnesses or review evidence, or refer the matter to the Attorney General and District Attorney for presentation to the grand jury for prosecution. Appeals for any decision made by the Mississippi Ethics Commission may be made to the Circuit Court of Hinds County. All investigative proceedings and records are strictly confidential, and any breach of confidentiality constitutes a crime. If someone purposefully files a false complaint with the Commission, he or she may be charged with a felony. If that individual is convicted, he or she must be fined between $1,000 and $10,000. Their prison sentence cannot be for more than 5 years. If the Ethics Commission finds that a law was broken, it may also determine what penalty should be imposed. A state employee may be censured by the Commission, or it may impose a civil fine of $10,000 or less if it finds a violation of law has occurred. It may further recommend that the Circuit Court of Hinds County remove an elected official from office. For other state employees, the Commission may recommend that the Circuit Court instruct that the employee be terminated, suspended, demoted, or receive a reduction in pay. If public funds or property were unlawfully taken by an employee, the Commission may also order it returned. No provision of the ethics law prevents the state from bringing separate charges for criminal violations. In other words, if an individual abuses his or her office and embezzles public funds, they may go to prison, be fined, or be required to repay the money taken. If an employee does not agree with the order from the Commission, the order may be appealed to the Circuit Court of Hinds County. During an appeal, execution of the Commission's decision is not enforced until the Circuit Court makes its own ruling. In addition to the ethics laws, the Mississippi State Employee Handbook includes certain sections regarding ethical behavior. Chapter 5.7 of the State Employee Handbook addresses conflicts of interest. It states that employees must be careful to avoid using or appearing to use their position for personal gain. Your actions as a state employee should not cause others to question the integrity of state government. As a state employee, you are prohibited from taking part in any activity, either in your private or official capacity, where there is a conflict of interest with your employment. Your first loyalty should be to the public's interest. You are encouraged to participate in professional and civic organizations, but only if those organizations do not have a negative effect on your role as a state employee. The Mississippi State Employee Handbook addresses jobs you may have outside of your employment with the state. In Chapter 5.14, titled Outside Employment, it states that your state position is your primary employment obligation. Any other job you may have is considered secondary. This must be kept in mind so that any secondary employment does not affect your attendance, timeliness, or create a conflict of interest. Outside employment is considered to be any job where you receive compensation. This includes not just money, but also some type of other benefit. You are allowed to be a member of a reserve component of the military without violating this prohibition. Before considering outside employment, you should submit a request in writing and seek approval for the job. If the outside employment is a conflict of interest for the state or takes you away from your primary responsibilities, the request may be denied. We hope that you have gained valuable insight into the ethics in state government laws and enjoy your public employment in state government. If you have any questions about this course, please contact the MSPB Office of Workforce Development. Should you have questions or need advice concerning the topics in this webcast, please contact the Mississippi Ethics Commission for guidance.